Yes, welcome one and all to Grandpa's Journal number 11. As you can see by this board behind me, Pixie is our suspect for today. But how, you might ask, could one possibly make the case that one such as Pixie Post, one we all know and love, could be a murderer? You see, in my investigations, I, Old Man Bungalow, the murdered, the victim, have found that Pixie Post is none other than a triad spy. And this is how I'm gonna prove it. To tell our story, we'll have to go back in time. The Qing Dynasty, 1644. Control of Beijing has been seized by Manchu rule, the self-proclaimed successors to the Ming Empire. Move forward to 1761. The Tiandui is founded. The Heaven and Earth Society, the Hongmen some called them, split from Ming loyalists, formed secret societies in secret. 1768. Qingzhou, China. We find a beleaguered 18-year-old fisherman named Ping Wen. After a long day of fishing and trading, he just wanted a simple drink. So he headed to the local watering hole, where he found two men fighting, beating up on a third, just kicking the crap out of him, beating the shit out of his face. Well, Ping Wen just couldn't stand there and watch it happen. He had to get involved. He had to throw some hands. He didn't win, but he did make a new friend after he was done getting his ass beat. His name was Ping Xingzhao. And it was a happy friendship, and soon it flourished into a partnership in the fishing business. Ping Wen would fish while Zhao would sell their stock at the market. These were happy times when one day, as the boat comes into port, Ping Wen sees Ping Xingzhao on the ground crawling with a trail of blood. He had been mugged at their stall and stabbed right in the gut, baby. He ran to his friend, scooped him up in his arms, begged him to hold on. And as he took his final breaths, Ping Xingzhao used them to divulge the knowledge of a growing movement formed of secret societies descended from the White Lotus sects. And then his friend died in his arms. Isn't that sad? Fast forward to 1845. The triads have been banned by colonial government rule as the British control Hong Kong. Ping Wen is 97 years old, living in secret as a high-ranking member of the triad. He had intended to spend his life helping others, and instead he gave in to corruption and did things he can't take back. He was a bad, bad boy. Ping Wen was dying. And as he died, laying there in his bed, he thought back on his friend, Ping Xingzhao, the one who taught him what it was to be a caring person. And so he invited his grandson to his bedside, Qi Hao Wang. He tells his grandson of his shattered dreams for peace, begs him to take up the mantle and strive to do good. And then he dies. We move to 1849. So begins the Taiping Rebellion, the first of the anti-Manchu uprisings. Wang is 7 years old. Witness to the fighting during the rebellion, his parents were killed in an attack, and as such, he was raised by triad members. Although, during his childhood, he was fed religion through Christian messaging around the rebellion, converting to Christianity at 21, leaving the triad and joining the military. Then comes 1856. The Qing authorities board the Arrow, flying a British flag. So begins the Second Opium War. Ki Hao-wang fights in the battles, kills men, is traumatized, and leaves the military. He takes time to reflect, remembers the words he was told his grandpa told him. And so he goes on and lives a long and fruitful life despite PTSD. He gets married, has children, and builds a good life for his large family, and lives through some major changes in history. Jump to the 1890s. China and Japan have been fighting over Korea for some time, and war breaks out in 1894. Ki Hao-wang witnesses the atrocities of war once again, and this causes him to become jaded. And as such, he abandons his now extensive family and joins the Triad to fulfill his grandfather's dying wishes for peace. I don't really understand his logic, but I didn't write the story. Wang quickly becomes indispensable as a leader, loses sight of his goals over time, and begins moving large amounts of opium. Over the next 10 years, Ki Hao-wang builds an opium distribution network that takes him all over China and beyond, expanding his grip into territories outside the borders of the Qing dynasty. He is responsible for many crimes. And at 62 years of age, Wang begins to decline. His mental health takes a dive and he becomes paranoid. One day, in 1907, Ki Hao-wang has become disoriented and fled his home. Triad members out all over searching. Wang, he's finally spotted, but he's running towards a man. And he begins to assault him, beating the shit out of his face. Authorities become involved, and a struggle ensues. And in that struggle, the authorities accidentally lose their grip, and Wang falls into the water. He hit his head, bled to death, and died in the canal. After his death, a power struggle within the organization ensues, and a horrible tyrant of a man takes control. Guan Yu Shang, a reprehensible monster. Shang transforms the Triad into a heavy crime syndicate, spreading his influence across the network built by Wang. Operating in secret, Shang and his officers helped to plan the end of the Manchu rule, and the Wu-Shang uprising of October 10th, 1911 set off many more uprisings. By November, most of the empire had revolted. The formation of the Republic of China in Nanjing on the 1st of January 1912 signaled the beginning of the end. And on the 12th of February 1912, the throne of the child emperor was abdicated, leading to the final fall of the Qing dynasty at the hands of Yuan Shikai's Beiyang army. Grandpa's not a linguist. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Yuan Shang continued to run the Triad, expanding greatly over time, gaining immense power. He passed on his legacy to his children and their children and their children, and that nepotism brings us to the present day. At precisely 8:41 p.m. Eastern on October 4th, 2024, Pixie Post heard a sound in her kitchen. Ready for action, she threw on her stomping boots and made her way down the hall. To her surprise, upon throwing on the lights, she found Old Man Bungalow huddled in the corner, mumbling to himself. Pixie brought him to the table and gave him a nice cup of tea. They talked about various subjects like life and how many pickles he could fit in his mouth at once. The answer was 12. After their conversation, Grandpa knew what must be done and rushed off into the night with a thermos full of tea. But ladies and gentlemen, in my investigations, I uncovered a shocking truth. There, on the shelf in Pixie Post's home, a clock. But not just any clock, an atomic clock that is always accurate. Why? Because she has to know the time, Why? Well, where was the clock made? China. Therefore, Pixie Post is connected to the Chinese triad. And there you have it. Undeniable proof that Pixie Post is capable of murder. Well, what? What do you mean the clock was made in Vietnam? Can't you fucking read? If the clock's not Chinese, then Pixie Post can't be a Chinese spy. Well, that means, my God, that can only mean one thing. The only one who could be responsible for Grandpa's death is James Cosmic Stella. Well, that's all the time we have for now, grandkids. So, until next time, Bully James.